Hello, hello, Preston, Mr. Preston Dennett. Thank you for coming to us, for being with us for 1 hour, let us say, this Saturday, May 2025. We are doing this interview for a future channel, a coming channel, which will be called Global Ets, a French channel with French UFO researchers, authors, and foreign authors. So I'm with my friend Mike, who supported me in this project, and tonight to ask a few questions to author and investigator Preston Dennett from USA. So good evening, Preston, and thank you again for accepting to spend some time this evening with us.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
All right. So, Preston, as I told you in mail, and you agreed, what I wish to do is a general introduction to author and investigator Preston Dennett, and with your agreement, of course, we may record other interviews of the same length, like 40 to 50 minutes maximum, or opportunities on more specific investigations you have been performing for many years now. So, to start with, Preston, can you introduce yourself and tell to the French people who don't know you yet? Also, one of your book has been translated in 2022, in May 22. I translated it. Thank you again for trusting me with that, Preston. I'm very proud to have translated your book, which was quite successful, I must say, in France.
Wonderful.
Yeah, so can you introduce yourself as an investigator from the year, I think, 1986, if I read carefully your short bio?
Yes, I started researching this subject in 1986 when I was 21 years old. I came into this field as a skeptic. I did not believe in UFOs. That all changed on November 17, 1986, when I heard about a sighting over Alaska. It got on the evening news. It was an amazing encounter involving a Japanese commercial airliner over Alaska. And it interested me enough to start asking people. I remember my older brother Mark had said he'd seen a UFO some years earlier. I didn't believe him then, but after hearing this report on the news, I asked him about it. And he described an amazing, very close up encounter with a classic flying saucer, a metallic disc hovering at very low level, colored lights all around it. He had two witnesses with him. I ended up speaking to both of them. That's what started it for me. I found out that other people in my family had seen UFOs. I had friends who had seen UFOs, people I worked with, my coworkers. 1 year later, after buying all the books I could find on the subject, I joined MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, and became a field investigator. I started investigating cases formally, interviewing people. For about 10 years, I just dove into research, writing articles, speaking on radio and TV at conventions. And in 1996, I put out my first book about UFO healing cases, and since then have written over 100 articles and over 30 books.
Yeah, thank you, Preston. 1996, after 10 years of research on healing, UFO healing people, that's a topic that has been much commented upon, healing. Can you say a word about this mysterious kind of events?
Yeah, I became really concerned because it looked like this subject, ET
You,
contact, was being misrepresented in the media. They weren't telling the truth. It was very fear based. And I kept finding healing cases. very positive cases of encounters. And not just one or two or 10 or 20. I found over 100 cases. These cases come from all over the world: England, France, Canada, Africa, Australia, Russia. I mean, you name it. South America, of course, the United States. Pretty much every major researcher who focuses on cases of ET contact has healing cases.
Healing cases.
Yes. And these cases involve healings of very minor conditions, such as injuries or burns or broken bones or a stomach ache, to more serious conditions, kidney disease, liver disease, heart conditions, very serious illnesses such as tuberculosis, diphtheria, diabetes, tumors, cancer, AIDS even. So I've now found over 300 cases of this kind.
Mike, you have a question?
Yes, we appreciate your work, especially because
Thank you, Preston.
you stand. You can hear me good or what?
Yeah.
Because you stand a bit out of the military context. The cases you're working on are, most of them describe benevolent ETs or healers, which is great. You talked about an hospital in Andorra where they cure little children cancerous things like that, which is great. And we out of the eternal talking about militaries and malevolent.
Okay, do you remember this case, Preston? This case in Andorra with a hospital?
I do. Yeah, it was really surprising to me because I found out that about 10% of the healing cases, and again, there are hundreds, they can take place anywhere, but about 10% take place inside a hospital.
Inside.
Which sounds amazing, but as any researcher will tell you, an encounter can happen anywhere in a very crowded location.
Yeah.
And I do remember that case. There are quite a few cases very much like it. If there were just one or two or even 10 or 20, I would be more skeptical. But with hundreds of cases, it's impossible to deny that something is going on. And many of these cases are very well documented with doctors' reports showing before the illness, during the illness, and after the illness being cured. So it's great evidence for the reality of extraterrestrials, and also very important because it shows that the fear-based narrative put forth by our militaries and our governments are not true. ETs are not here to hurt us. It's actually the opposite.
Actually,
the opposite.
ETs are more benevolent than we believe.
Yes, but we were talking about those cases in Brazil, where peasants are aggressed by, it's horrible. They burn the peasants at night, and it's not the same entities. I think.
Try to be short questions, Mike, because we don't have much time. So, Preston, what do you say, for instance, yes, on these cases in Brazil, which is completely different cases of aggressive ETs? Have you investigated such cases in your long career?
I know about the Colares Brazil incident, and researchers who have looked into this have pointed out the very strong possibility that that is not ET. That is government agents masquerading, pretending to be ET to push forth this false narrative. There's something called MILABS, military abductions, where our governments use technology, every tool at their disposal to create this false narrative. I have interviewed hundreds of people who've had contact directly, been taken on board, And I have never heard anything like that.
Mhm.
We have to remember there is a cover-up. There is a disinformation campaign. This field is filled with liars, false investigators, contactees who are not true contactees, who are pushing this fear narrative. That case in Brazil is unique. I don't think that was ET's. This is my assessment, because my own research does not match that at all.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much for your honesty, Preston, because these questions must be raised in a way, and we don't have the full answer on all these difficult questions. So thank you for showing it in that way. We'll go on, Mike. We'll go on introducing Preston Dennett's work, and another time we'll come back to this issues
Sure.
on Colares and others. So thank you, Preston. You have written 30 books. 30 books. So since it is an interview to introduce you as an investigator, can you summarize your investigation through 4 decades, let's say 3.5 decades, and how do you introduce your books? Not all of them. What would you say?
Oh gosh, that's a lot of information there.
When
I've
did you
written,
start? When did you start your first book in 1996 on UFO healings people? Okay, so what did you do after that?
yeah, after that book about UFO healings, which I think is one of my more important books, one of the first to ever talk about healings, well, the first. I did write a book about a UFO wave over my hometown of Topanga Canyon. This
Oh,
was
yes.
a huge wave of encounters, a series of UFO events
Yeah.
involving not only sightings, but cars being chased down the road, craft landing, people being taken on board, a very intense series of
Yeah.
UFO encounters.
The Night of UFOs. Can you remind us the date, the year, Preston, and the
Yeah,
month?
this wave occurred in 1992 to 1994, but really began on June 14th, 1992, when about 30 or 40 people in various areas in this one location saw many UFOs. They called the
What?
police station, the newspaper. It was truly an astonishing event.
Yeah, it is referred in your book Undersea UFO Base. There is a chapter talking about the night of the UFOs. Can you tell for the French people where is Topanga Canyon precisely?
Yes, Topanga Canyon is located in Southern California, very close to Los Angeles, just west of Los Angeles, right along the coastline near Malibu and Santa Monica. It's a little community of about 10,000 people. Well, back then, 10,000, probably closer to 20 now. But yeah, right along the coastline, right off the coast where the Santa Catalina, San Pedro Channel is, Catalina Island, that area.
Okay, so you were living there, you said that was your hometown?
That's where I grew up. Yep. I was living just a short distance away. I'd moved out of the family home when I was in my 20s. So I wasn't living there at the time, but that is where I grew up.
So would you say this night of the event, 14th of June 1992, is an important event for UFO cases in California, let's say, or in America at the time?
Yes, it's a very important event. There are very few UFO incidents involving more than 50 or 100 objects. That night, there were some 100 to 200 UFOs seen on one night in one area. There's only a handful of cases all across the world involving that many objects seen at one time.
Did you have any conclusion about this event in your investigation and in your book?
It's hard to say. I can only speculate. There was clearly something very important going on there. There's something about that area that I think, I'm not sure what it is, attracts UFOs. There are certain what we call hotspots all over the world. Most areas will have a location that has a disproportionately large number of encounters. It's very hard to say why, but it's certainly a pattern of UFO activity.
A hotspot in California, Los Angeles, north of Los Angeles. Thank you. We will not recall all your books, but precisely let's say keep with California. Your book Undersea UFO Base, which was translated in 2022, focuses on California cases on the Californian coast and what we call the Santa Catalina Island and the channel islands on the coast of California, Los Angeles, San Diego. What would you say today, Preston, on Santa Catalina Island and this area? Would you say it is still a hotspot, or can you say a word about Santa Catalina? What it was at the time you wrote the book, what was the investigation, and what would you say today?
Yeah, I became very interested in this area because from the beginning of my own investigations, I was receiving reports of what we call USOs, unidentified submersible objects, unidentified submerged objects, objects coming in and out of the water. And I thought, wow, this is very interesting because there really wasn't any information on this. So I started collecting these reports and documenting them.
When did you start?
Right from the beginning, 1986. But I really wasn't focusing on that particular. But after about 10 years, I had started to amass a huge number of cases in this one area, over 150. And I will say that pretty much all the researchers in this area had noticed the huge amount of activity in the Santa Catalina, San Pedro Channel, including Ann Druffel, Bill Hamilton, Barbara Lamb, Yvonne Smith, Robert Stanley, and many others. So there was something about this area that was unusual because mile for mile, I mean, this is one of the leading producers of USO reports in the world.
Who is that, would you say?
Excuse me?
I didn't hear the name. Which name?
There are several researchers who have...
Oh, yeah, I've heard. I thought you were mentioning another name right now. No.
Oh, no. But what is so interesting to me is that this area is so very active. I mean, to have 150 cases in a very small area is really unusual. So I found out that this area is quite deep. It is about 2 kilometers, 1 mile deep in areas, up to 5,000 feet. That's meters. I'm not sure, but definitely has a very deep canyon going up the coastline towards Northern California, and a huge number of cases. So there's something very important going on here.
Preston, Santa Catalina has been investigated before you started, I think, or these events have been investigated by Ann Druffel, I think, Yvonne Smith, you mentioned. So can you remind some cases in the 60s or 70s, for instance, because they are mentioned in some of your books. Do you think?
Yeah, there are so many cases to choose from, but one of my favorite occurred in 1956, I think, Redondo Beach. This is right along the coastline there, and this involved a group of witnesses who were on the beach and saw a very large orange glowing disc-shaped object which glided slowly out of the sky and settled on the surface of the water just 100 meters offshore, not far. And police from 2 neighboring counties, the Hermosa Beach Police and the Redondo Beach Police, also saw this, as did lifeguards, who are very credible witnesses. And soon there was a whole crowd of 10 or 20 people watching this object as it sank beneath the waves. They could still see the water frothing and bubbling. They could see this object glowing underneath the water. They actually sent out a boat to investigate it, got right above this object and could see that it was in fact 20, 30 feet across, at which point it disappeared. It never came up. They don't know what it was. They sent out people to do radiation readings the next morning and found no evidence of it. But what's amazing about this is that the Coast Guard later released a statement saying that what people saw was what we call a light buoy, a buoy with a light on it, and actually held one up. It was this big, a 2 foot or 2 across, less than a meter, and said, this is what people saw. That's ridiculous, because people actually saw this object coming down out of the sky. It was huge. There's no way it could have been a light buoy. This is a perfect example of how this subject is covered up, how officials lie about this subject. And it's just one of so many cases like this.
Thank you so much, I will say. Thank you so much, Preston. Ivan Sanderson was one of the pioneers in this investigation. Can you say a word on his contribution?
Yes. Ivan Sanderson wrote a book called Invisible Residents, and he was the first to really talk about USOs at all. For years and years, there was no other information on this subject. There was a gentleman by the name of Carl Feint, who years later did write a book about USO incidents. But overall, that was the only information I could find on this subject.
At the time.
I consider those two gentlemen to be pioneers in this subject. And this is one of the reasons I wanted to put out this book, Undersea UFO Base, because I had so many people coming to me asking for information about USOs, sharing their stories, which aren't certainly located to that one area. I talked to people who had encounters all over the world, some really amazing encounters. May I share one real quickly?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, there was one in 1971. This is one of my favorite USO incidents I've investigated. A gentleman by the name of Ray Sachs was an electrician's mate on the USS Clamagore. That's a Navy submarine. At the time, it was carrying nuclear-tipped torpedoes. This was not publicly known at the time, but it was heading up the eastern coast of the United States on the surface of the water at night, moving at about 12 knots. Ray Sachs was one of the lookouts on the deck of the submarine.
Which was a year? Can you remind?
This was 1971. Okay. And he was just a young man. He had joined the Navy, shortly before all of this. And as he's on the deck, on lookout with another petty officer and the commander in the second in command, a USO showed up. A glowing object came zooming in at about 100 knots, he said, from the stern, and paced the submarine for 15 minutes. It was not seen on sonar. There was no noise. It was very close to the submarine, close enough that it would have been considered a near miss or a possible collision if it was a standard conventional craft, another submarine. So this was very puzzling to all the officers. And after about 15 minutes, it zoomed off at about 80 knots in another direction. And this part is so interesting to me. The second in command turned to the commander and said, "Sir, how would you like me to record this in the logbook?" And the commander said, "Officers who report this kind of event do not move up in rank." So it wasn't recorded. And having talked to some other submariners, people on board submarines who've been involved in USO incidents, that is standard procedure. This is what usually happens. They're not recorded. So what we're hearing is probably 1 or 2% of the actual number of cases.
Yeah, thank you, Preston. People are being silenced for decades now, especially in the military. Do you know the book by Paul Stonehill on USOs from the KGB, for the Russian files?
I do. I've spoken with Paul directly. He's an amazing researcher, very thorough, very credible, a true pioneer because we don't get a whole lot of information about UFOs and USOs coming out of Russia for obvious reasons. So he's a real asset to the UFO community.
Yeah, I've translated his book, before yours, and it's really a wonderful book. Lots of cases because it is the Navy, the military Navy, but the commercial ships, the scientific ships, the civil ships on all oceans, including Arctic and, of course, Pacific, North Pacific, etc. There are hundreds of cases. Um,
But
regarding, yeah, Mike,
the Admiral Galladay he spoke a lot about it.
Galde,
Galladay, how do you call it?
Yes.
The Admiral.
Yes, I've heard about that. He actually quoted my book,
Yes.
Undersea UFO Base, as a good resource for cases off the Southern California coast. So that was a real honor. And I'm glad to see he's taking this
Sure.
subject seriously and
yeah.
pushing
Okay.
for disclosure.
Yeah. So my question, Mike, to focus now to the recent events. Thank you again, Preston. Since we don't have much time to finish this first interview, we'll talk a little more about your other books and your YouTube channel. But now, to be sharp, to to focus these things, what would you say about the media who talk about the events by the California coast since 2004, the U.S. limits, 2019, the USS Omaha, and the UAP task force report released in June 2021. You talk about this case, the glowing UFO um, on the sea. And I was just thinking that yesterday I watched again the USS Omaha um, shot, the screen that had been publicized, and this object coming down and getting into the water. So it has been publicized since 2021, let us say. But what is your reaction yourself as an investigator for so many decades in front of the publicity or the supposed declassification or by the military or whatever?
Yeah, it's very encouraging to see this information being publicly revealed because there has been no information coming from government or the military on this subject for decades. I think we reached a point where there was so much activity, so many whistleblowers, so many researchers, so many people experiencing this stuff that it was inevitable that sooner or later the truth was going to come out. I think this is one of the driving forces behind disclosure, because if our governments and our military doesn't start saying that there is truth to this subject, doesn't start revealing information, they're going to become not credible. They're going to lose control of the narrative. It's become to their benefit to disclose. I don't think they're doing this voluntarily. I think they're doing this because they have to. To not do so would make them irrelevant. Uh, so I am very encouraged. It's very, encouraging, I think is the best word, to see this subject being treated seriously and having officials talk about this.
What was your reaction, Preston, when you watch and listen to David Fravo and to Ryan Graves about the events, USS Nimitz and later, and reaction to David Grush, of course. How did you feel as an investigator who has dedicated years of his investigation?
I was delighted. I applauded these guys for coming forward and speaking, sometimes at great personal risk to their reputations, to their careers. It's clear to me that this is very carefully controlled, that there still is a cover-up, that there's still a lot of information that has yet to be revealed. Congress, while they are talking about UFO sightings and even crash retrievals, are not talking about humanoids or people who are having direct contact. So I'm kind of two minds about it. I'm very happy to see that this is being talked about, but it's clear to me they're still lying about this subject. They're not talking about the flyover over the or they are not talking about the flyover over the U.S. Capitol in 1952, or the landing in 1954 at Edwards Air Force Base, or the incident over Malmstrom Air Force Base in Montana in 1967, where UFOs shut down our intercontinental ballistic missiles, or Roswell. They won't admit to the truth about the Roswell UFO crash in 1947. And until and unless they start admitting to the truth of these incidents and so many others, the cover-up is still in place. So while I'm happy to see these baby steps moving forward, where we are taking this subject seriously, I think the best benefit of all of this is that it's bringing attention to this subject, and many more people are taking it seriously, and this whole subject is enjoying an unprecedented level of popularity that it's never had before.
Great, yeah. So that's something positive. The general publicity, as you remind, it's just a beginning. Many issues have not been raised in this so-called declassification. You talked about all these things, Roswell and Malmstrom, the military base, which are described in the book by Robert Salas. You know the thing. And other things, there's like abduction, UFO abduction, people getting abducted. It's not been raised by the military, by any speech by the spokesman, by the U.S. Congress. So all these cases, very, very important. Thank you very much to clarify these things. Preston, to conclude this first interview, thank you very much. What do you say about your current works? What are you working into now, presently? Books, investigation?
Yeah, right now I'm focusing mostly on what I believe is the cutting edge of UFO research, the area where we can get the most answers and answer all these questions surrounding the subject about who are these visitors, where do they come from, and why are they here? And these are cases, I wouldn't call them abductions, because the people who are having these experiences often do not feel that way. They feel these encounters are benevolent. But I would point to my book, Symmetry, A True UFO Adventure, about Dolly Saffron, my book, Onboard UFO Encounters, Inside UFOs, and several others, which profile cases of people who have been taken on board and had interactions directly with the ETs, have been healed, have gotten all kinds of information. I'm currently working on a sequel to my book, Symmetry, which is going to bring forth a lot of the information, scientific and spiritual, directly from the extraterrestrials themselves. I love her case. It's very well authenticated with photographs, medical evidence, implant evidence, corroborating witnesses, videos. It's, I think, one of the most important cases out there, certainly the most extensive. That's what I'm working on currently. I have many books in the works.
Yes, you have the series of Symmetry. There are two books, Symmetry 1, Symmetry 2, but which is the major case?
Symmetry 1 is just one case, all about Dolly Saffron.
Dolly Saffron, yes.
Yes, and Symmetry 2 continues it. My other books profile 10 or 20 cases of people who've been taken on board. But yeah, I do think onboard experiences deserve more attention, because I don't trust our governments. I would not look to them for answers. I look to the contactees. That's where we'll get the truth about this subject.
How do you summarize Doreen Saffron experience in the short words, of course?
Yeah, which is very difficult to do because she's had a lifetime of experiences. But to summarize it, she's had a lifetime of encounters starting from a very early age, but at age 14, had a very close-up encounter where she was taken on board. The ETs spoke with her and asked how they could help her. What did she want to learn? And they taught her how to fly a UFO, how to fly these craft. I know how this must sound to skeptics. I've had other cases in the past and would in the future of people who've been told how to fly these craft. But this is mostly what her story is about, how she learned all kinds of things, science from the ETs, spirituality, psychic abilities, and works very closely with them and has for decades and continues to this day to be in telepathic contact with them. She says they're not here right now. The magnetic fields of our planet have become very unstable, so they had to leave, but she is still in contact with them. Most of what people are seeing now, or all, in terms of UFOs, is government reverse engineered craft.
Okay. Thank you,
Fascinating.
Preston. You have your YouTube channel with done a lot of work on your YouTube channel. How do you manage to do so many videos, recordings? You have 268 episodes. I found 2070. So how was it?
Yes, I thank you very much. I think this subject is truly important, so I work very, very hard at putting out information on my YouTube channel that I think is well authenticated, vetted, well researched, credible, and objective. I would underline that, objective. Facts only. I'm not pushing a narrative because it's very difficult to find credible information on this subject. It's a tremendous amount of work and research. I work very, very hard at it. So I appreciate you pointing that out. It's, again, very hard to find good information on this subject.
Mike, did you watch some videos by Preston on his YouTube channel?
I'm following him.
Yeah, I'm doing too, but there are so many, so many that. Preston, thank you again. Are you attending any conferences, symposium this year or the recent years? Have you gone to as a speaker to UFO congresses?
I am not speaking at the UFO Congress or Contact in the Desert, but I am speaking at the Shag Harbor Conference in Canada in October. Oops, sorry, 1 second. Sorry about that. I am speaking at the Shag Harbor Conference in October of this year, along with Dolly Saffron. We will both be there. So I haven't done as much conferences as I used to in the past, but I still do 1 or 2 per year, and that's the closest one upcoming.
Okay, Shag Harbor Conference. I heard about it recently. I was speaking to a French investigators who joined the association, the group of investigators and the group in Shag Harbor. So they must be so interested to hear you about USO cases in Shag Harbor as well. Do you think you will talk about USO cases in California, for instance? In Shag Harbor is known for this amazing case, which is a USO case. Can you say a word about Shag Harbor case?
Yeah, the Shag Harbor incident is one of the most famous USO cases in the world. I believe it was 1967 that multiple witnesses in the area saw a craft come down and hit the water and submerge. It's very well authenticated. The Canadian government has admitted to the truth of this. Researcher Chris Stiles has interviewed well over 100 people who were involved in this incident, which went on for, 3 days, I believe. The military was there, and divers were looking at this thing. It's a tremendous UFO incident that is undeniably true. There are so many witnesses.
Yeah, I know. Going to see soon about it. Okay, you will be there in October in Canada then with many other speakers. Who will be there with you? Do you know?
Oh yeah, there will be many other speakers. Me, Dolly Saffron, Darcy Weir, Kevin Randall, Chris Stiles, of course.
Kevin Randall, okay, the author on the Roswell case, among other things, and the government cover-up.
Yes, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you, Preston. When we have time, we schedule an interview on your recent book, maybe on symmetry, on Dolly Saffron, and partly on the book which was translated to French 2022, which I called the Détroit de Santa Catalina, which was your book Undersea UFO Base, because I was so delighted, Preston, to reading this book. It's this amazing threshold of cases, very well documented. Your writing is very pleasant as well. And so I would like you to talk about some cases, a few cases from this book at another time.
Yeah, merci beaucoup. Formidable. Je parle français un peu. J'ai étudié pendant 8 années en école, mais je ne peux pas comprendre très bien.
Good intonation. Do you know? Do you plan to travel to Europe sometimes?
Perhaps I would like to. I have no immediate plans at this point, but it's always been something I would love to do.
Yeah,
I love France. I would love to visit there.
Okay, we need to have an international congress. There are not enough. You see, Whitley Strieber will be in the south of France this year, in Carcassonne. If you heard about the south, this medieval town, beautiful town, it will be, I think, in the OLM Outer Limits magazine conference in East Yorkshire in England as well in September, I think. Paul Stonehill will be on a congress. Which is called a Rencontre Galactique in Valence, close to the Italian and Swiss border in August. Paul Stonehill will be there, you see. So it would be great to have you sometime and to have a large international symposium in France, of course. Thank you. Mike, do you have another question to say goodbye to before saying goodbye to Preston?
It's so fascinating. It's very delightful to hear you, to listen to what you're explaining. And my words, I'm out of words to tell you the truth.
Okay, we'll have other opportunity, Mike. You will have opportunity to talk to Preston largely. So thank you for the part on behalf of all the French persons who will listen to this first interview. I thought it was important to build a YouTube channel, Preston, to introduce foreign authors, international authors, because unfortunately, as you see, few books are being translated in the UFO field, not enough. And to understand your work, your dedication, it's important to listen to you, let's say 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 1 hour. And I'm sure this interview will be very useful for people to know all this dedication. Thank you again. Good evening, Preston, and we'll talk to you another time.
Merci beaucoup.
It's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you, Preston. Good evening.